What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. The channel popping off lately. Solar 3.0 builds have been the hot commodity inside of the Destiny community, it seems. So we got another banger here for y'all with a Titan build, taking advantage of that exotic chess piece, the Hallowfire Heart, which gives us faster solar ability regens and even faster when we have our super fully charged, allowing us to spam solar abilities everywhere, especially with how I have this built out with the throwing hammer as well as thermite grenade. It is crazy the amount of sunspots and solar wells that we have with this build. Starting off with our subclass abilities, aspects, and fragments, we are going to be using the Burning Maul. Definitely my favorite out of the two this season for Solar 3.0, becoming that blade of fiery death and annihilating everything in our path. For our abilities, we got our Towering Barricade with Strafe Lift. Now for melee, I'm going with Throwing Hammer so we can create those Solar Elemental Wells as well as our Sunspots a lot easier than we can with our Shoulder Charge. And then I'm going to go with Thermite Grenades. One, because of their cooldown time is definitely in the mid tier, not the lowest, not the highest. Plus its ability to have that rolling wave of fire, I think is the best for dealing with adds. And then for our Titan here, creating sunspots as well as elemental wells for this build specifically. Now for our aspects, we're going to have, as always for PvE, Roaring Flames and Sol Invictus. So Roaring Flames allow our solar abilities and solar ignitions to increase damage to our solar abilities, stacking up to ×3. So this, especially with the Hallowfire Heart, being able to regen our abilities, having them faster and having them create more damage is really crazy with this aspect here. And then on top of that, we're going to have Sol Invictus, so all of those ability kills as well as our super is going to help us create sunspots, which are pretty key to also getting our abilities back when we stand in them, and our super drains more slowly when we are also standing in it. Very, very clutch for having this super and solar ability spam build that we have with Hallowfire Heart. Now for our fragments here, we're going to start out with Ember of Char, so our solar ignitions spread Scorch to the targets. This helps us with that 10 discipline, plus with the amount of Scorch that we get from our sunspots, our super, our weapons, as well as our throwing hammer. It's very nice to have that Scorch be applied to a larger area effect when we get the ignitions to proc. Next off, we have Ember of Blistering, so defeating targets with solar ignitions grants us grenade energy, just playing into the ability spam of this, especially with our chest piece that we have on. Now Ember of Torches, so our powered melee attacks against combatants makes us and our nearby allies radiant. Very clutch and very key for basically all Solar 3.0 builds this season, especially when we're pairing it with Throwing Hammer. And finally, Ember of Searing, defeating those scorched targets grant us melee energy, just in case we do lose our throwing hammer. Defeating those scorched targets is another way of getting ability spam with our melee. Now for the weapons that we're going to be using here is the Deliverance with Demolition on it. This is a very clutch, what I use mostly inside of this build with the Callus mini tool backing it up, but we just get a couple defeats with Demolitionist and we have our grenade back basically after those 2-3 defeats, especially with how we have this build built out. Backing it up, like I said, to spread that ignition and scorch, we're going to be using Callus mini tool with incandescent, so those defeats cause those little baby ignitions and spread scorch to that AoE. Then we're going to pull this out of the vault, 1,000 voices for that solar damage. We know it just comes and throws out that solar beam of destructive damage, and we're pairing this with a fusion rifle and fusion rifle, so when on our armor mods we can throw on that scavenger as well as our finder, so we can get both of those to proc instead of having to use double mod slots for different types of weapons. Now for our armor over here to start out on our helmet, like I said, we're going to have that double fusion rifle finder so we can get ammo for both our deliverance as well as our 1,000 voices. On top of that, we're going to have elemental ordnance, so when we get defeats with our grenades, which we are going to have a lot of them basically all the time when we're throwing them around, they have that chance of creating those solar elemental wells, which we will pick up to become charged with light as well as replace our grenade energy. Now on our arms here, we're going to have impact induction as well as well of ordnance. So impact induction, when we cause damage with our melee, we reduce our grenade cooldown. So when we throw that hammer around and cause damage with it, we're going to get our grenade back even faster, especially with 2 of them on. And then like I said, picking up solar elemental wells grants us grenade energy via well of ordnance. So those solar elemental wells that we create via elemental ordnance as well as melee well maker later in the build will come into play with giving us grenade energy back even faster. Now the chest piece that brings this all together, the Hallowfire Heart. Haven't seen it talked about too much, but it is very, very good for that solar ability spam on our Titan. As you can see, improves the recharge rate of our solar abilities, and it greatly improves the recharge rate when your super is fully charged. This provides a small benefit to inborn accuracy for all weapons, not that that is super important in the PvE realm. Now for our mods, very interesting with this one, I actually chose to go firepower, so well charged with light, we regain a portion of our grenade energy when we use our grenade, consuming that 1 stack of light. Very, very cool because like I said, we're going to be using our solar elemental wells to become charged with light, and then when we throw our grenade, we get that energy back super fast because of this mod right here, and we're going to become charged with light when we get defeats with that grenade or melee and they produce a solar elemental well, so there will be laying around everywhere, allowing us to become charged with light very often, once again allowing us to spam our grenade. On top of that, we're going to go with fusion rifle reserves, which will again proc for our deliverance as well as our 1,000 voices, and then concussive dampener just for that extra little bit of survivability, even though especially with this Titan with the throwing hammer and classy restoration, don't need that survivability, but this definitely comes in clutch in some situations. On our legs here, we're going to have that melee wellmaker that I was talking about, so our throwing hammer defeats have the chance of creating those solar elemental wells, which once again, picking them up will help us become charged with light as well as replenish our grenade energy. And then when we are charged with light and throw our grenade, that firepower on our chest will allow us to get our grenade energy back again, just that positive feedback loop of those like infinite grenades, solar energy everywhere with those sunspots, and then just the ability regen because of Hallowfire Heart is absolutely bonkers. Then on top of that, like I said, fusion rifle holster, so when we have both our heavy as well as our deliverance stored, they will reload based on how long they are inside of the holster when we are using our Callus mini tool. And then finally for this build, we're going to be using classy restoration, so when we throw down our barricade, we have that health regen. On top of that, we reduce melee cooldown when using our class ability, so it's nice when we get that class ability, especially since we're going to be proccing it a lot with 100 resilience and then also 100 discipline on this build. Being able to cast that barricade down and get melee energy back as well as health is super key. And then we have that elemental charge, which is how we're becoming charged with light when we pick up those solar elemental wells. And as you can see with this build, it is just nuts how much that we're getting our grenade back, as well as creating those sunspots and solar elemental wells everywhere with this build, taking it into a lost sector just to show it off, seeing how fast and how well that we can clear out this lost sector, as well as doing the altar of sorrow a little bit, just showing the potential of ad clear as well as dealing with those nightmares, which are a little bit tougher. Makes it very easy for a good DPS build, as well as the ability spam of our hammer and our thermite grenade. And then on top of that, when we need that health regen, we throw down our barricade to protect ourselves, get melee energy, as well as that classy restoration to proc. So this build is just absolutely a blast to use for our solar titan here. And then that regen, like I said, for our abilities is bonkers with Hallowfire Heart. Very, very fun build to use for me. Been using it a decent amount inside of that PvE realm, especially when I'm going in doing challenges and bounties where I need ability defeats. This build right here is the ability spam definitely for Titans. So thank you guys again so much for supporting the channel and watching the videos lately. Y'all have been absolutely nuts. I truly appreciate y'all. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.